Hello, Facebook friends. How's everything going? This is Assemblymember Clyde Vannell here, live and direct from the district office. We opened up this week, yesterday actually. Now New York City is in phase three, and I felt like I wanted to reach out and talk to you guys directly. Um, I'm disturbed about what happened last weekend and what's been happening with the shootings around New York City. Um, Very disturbingly, that there was a young man that was um, crossing the street in the Bronx, and he was with his daughter, and he was shot in a drive-by. That's very disturbing. Found out last night that there was a 14-year-old boy that was shot in not too far from the neighborhood. Over the weekend, multiple shootings. Now, how do we address this and what do we deal with? One of the things I find is that it's a false conversation, false framing of the argument, whether or not we talk about police defunding or not. That's a false conversation. It's also a false conversation when certain people are speaking about the bail laws. False conversation. That I don't even want to have that conversation. This conversation I want to have with my community, and how we're going to move. What are we going to move forward? One of the things that we've been dealing with was that ever since I was a young man, every summer we have been dealing with shootings across the nation, but across in the neighborhood, in the community, where people get out. It's warm outside, and there have been a disease, a cancer of violence that we have to deal with. And I think that what's very important is for us to have an honest conversation, and how do we address this properly in our communities. Now keep in mind, I'm a lawmaker. My job is to be able to make laws and make policy. Also, as a lawmaker, how do I deal with it properly, and how do we deal with this holistically? I think that one of the things that we have to do is understand that we have to make sure that we have programs in place so that young people are active. And I'm going to talk about some of those. We also have to make sure that there are economic issues here where people with economic opportunities, certain economic opportunities, won't even be in certain kinds of situations. We also have to deal with what men in the community do, right? What our relationships are, what OGs do, what our relationships are to these young guys in the community. And then we also have to talk about the criminal justice reform. Are we properly disincentivizing these kinds of actions? And are we properly incentivizing good actions? We have to look at all that. If you guys are paying attention, you guys should see that on Friday, on Facebook Live at 9 a.m., I'm playing basketball one-on-one against one of my staff members, 24 years old. Why am I doing this? Am I Clyde? Is Clyde not serious? Is he just playing around? Is he just having fun, just having games? Part of the issue is that men of my age, men of my character, men of my ilk, my friends, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, need to be a relationship with these young men. The OGs need to step up. So I have to be able to communicate a certain kind of way with the young people. The young people have to be accountable to the men in the community. They have to know that they have to be more accountable to Clyde Vannell than the police. They have to say, man, look, I can't, we have to have these kinds of conversations. I have to know them. So how do I communicate? How do we communicate? Look, we got to figure this out. But we all have a role, brothers. You have a role to mentor. You have a role to coach. You have a role to have these kinds of relationships. On Friday, you're going to see me beat the pants off of my staffer, Kahari Jones. He's 24 years old. He's 6'8". I don't care how big he is. I'm going to take him to school. Now, funny, but important. We need to have those kinds of relationships with these young guys. It cannot be okay for a young man to drive down the street and shoot another man dead. That cannot be okay. It cannot be okay that I don't know the person with the gun, that I don't have a relationship with them. That cannot be okay. It cannot be okay, and Kimar says, y'all have a role to listen to us too. We can work together if we can't communicate. Kimar, you are so right. That's why I want to communicate with you guys. You know, that's why we're having this conversation. And Kimar, if you can play basketball, come see me. I got you, brother. I got to show you that the OGs are still nice with it. But it's important for us, you're right, Kimar, it's important for us to have this conversation. It's important for us to be able to communicate. It's important for us to be able to show you how to invest. Do you have a job? How to make money? How to grow and build? And I put that on myself. I put that on me. We have to do that. We have to have these conversations. We have to have these relationships. You have to know me. I have to know you. That's really important. I can't go through another weekend where we're watching bodies drop. Also, we have to make sure that, okay, Kimar, you're in Atlanta, that's okay. But we can't be in a situation, though, where we see bodies drop every weekend. We can't be in that situation, right? We can't be in a situation where, when I was growing up, man, people were killing each other, yes. But people would fight also. No one's fighting. I'm not saying we need to fight or anything like that, but my goodness, no one's nice with it. We used to have something called nice with the hands. And again, I'm not promoting violence, but we go straight to the gun. That's a problem. We have to fix that. Moving forward, you're going to see the caucus working on a number of policies to address jobs, to address economic opportunities, to address gun buyback programs. We haven't had a gun buyback program in the community in a while. We have to have statewide gun buyback programs. We have to make sure that, then we also have to make sure that in the system, we disincentivize the possession of a gun. It should not be cool to have a gun. That should not be cool in the culture at all. And we have to work on that. All of us, we have to work on that continuously. It's the community's responsibility to take care of the community. You notice I haven't talked about the police one time. No. Let me tell you something about me. When I was growing up, I'd rather you call the cops before you call my father. I was more afraid of my father and my community than I was of the cops. We have to address that this way. Another thing we have to do too, we cannot be afraid to have this conversation. We have to have these conversations. We must. And we must continue. And again, you might not agree with me. I may not agree with you. But we have to wrestle with this and get better. Just a couple of things for you guys to think about. But please check out Friday, me against 24-year-old Kahari Jones, old school versus new school, and watch me tear up new school. But just watch how we interact. We all have a role to do. Let me know what you think while we deal with all this. I'll be looking forward to your comments.